Audrey was determined to teach that waiter a lesson. Annoyed by the young man's interest in her friends, she thought he needed to be put in his place. However, what Audrey did not expect was that her plan would not go as she had intended, and by the end of that night, the one who would end up learning a lesson would be her. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda's Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. The morning sun bathed the busy streets of the city as hurried workers headed to their jobs. Among them was Audrey, a 25-year-old young woman with perfectly styled blonde hair and designer clothes. She walked with confident steps towards the imposing glass and steel building that housed her family's company headquarters. Audrey entered the panoramic elevator, admiring her reflection in the mirror. She knew her presence there was more a whim of her parents than her own merit. After all, she had grown up amid luxury and privileges, never having to exert much effort to achieve things. Upon reaching her floor, she was greeted by Eve, her assistant. Eve was 24 years old, with brown hair tied in a discreet bun and wearing simple yet elegant clothes. Her eyes conveyed intelligence and determination. "Good morning, Audrey. Here is your schedule for the day and the reports you requested," said Eve, handing over a folder. Audrey barely glanced at the papers. "Thank you, Eve. You can leave everything on my desk. I'll have a coffee first." Eve nodded, knowing that she would be the one to actually review those documents and make the important decisions. Everyone at the company knew that Eve was the true brain behind the exceptional performance of the department managed by Audrey. Later that day, Audrey, Eve, and a few other employees decided to have lunch at the elegant restaurant near the office. The place was sophisticated, with tables dressed in impeccable white cloths and a decor in shades of gold and green. As they sat down, the women noticed a new waiter approaching. He was a tall young man with broad shoulders and dark hair carefully combed. His blue eyes sparkled as he smiled gently. "Look, what a handsome waiter," whispered one of Audrey's colleagues. Audrey rolled her eyes. "Oh, girls, please, he's just a waiter. How can you find someone like him attractive? He must be a poor soul." Eve, who was sitting next to Audrey, quietly commented, "I'm not rich like you either, Audrey." Audrey cast a condescending and arrogant look at Eve. "Ah, but you are always with us and know how to behave. That's why we accept you with us." The waiter approached the table, presenting himself with a warm smile. "Good afternoon, ladies. My name is Henry, and I will be serving you today. May I bring the menu?" Some of the women made charming remarks to Henry, who responded in a playful and polite manner. Well, it seems we have some very lively customers today," said Henry, winking playfully. "I'll have to be careful not to drop anything with so much charm in the air." The women laughed, delighted with the waiter's good humour. Eve, shy, just smiled discreetly, while Audrey seemed bothered by all the attention directed at Henry. In the days that followed, the women continued to frequent the restaurant, and the innocent jokes with Henry became a constant. He always had a joke ready or a witty comment to brighten the client's lunch. Henry seemed to have a special attention for Eve. Whenever she arrived, he would pull out the chair for her to sit and was always ready to fill her glass or attend to any of her requests with a warm smile. Audrey, who initially showed no interest in Henry, began to feel uncomfortable with the attention he gave to Eve. Used to being the centre of attention, she didn't like seeing her assistant receiving more attention than she was. One afternoon, while having lunch at the restaurant, Audrey noticed the exchanges of glances between Henry and Eve. Jealousy consumed her inside, and an idea popped into her mind. She called Henry, as if she were ready to place her order. "Hey, Henry," Audrey said with a forced smile. "Did you know that tomorrow my family's company will hold a big event here at this restaurant? Are you going to work at the event?" Henry, who was looking at Eve, turned his attention to Audrey. "I know about the event, but I'm not going to work at it," he replied, giving a smile to Eve and practically ignoring Audrey. "How about coming as my guest to this party?" Audrey asked, surprising her friends, who exchanged confused glances. Henry seemed surprised by the invitation, but ended up accepting it. "Well, if it's an invitation from you, it would be rude to decline. Thank you, I'd be honoured to attend." As soon as Henry walked away, one of Audrey's friends asked, "I thought you didn't like him." Audrey shrugged, a mischievous gleam in her eyes. "And I don't. He's always full of jokes and glances at us. I'm going to put him in his place. He'll learn not to mess with us. After all, who does he think he is?" Eve, who had been listening to the conversation in silence, felt her heart tighten. She genuinely liked Henry and couldn't understand why Audrey wanted to humiliate him. The day of the event arrived, and the restaurant hall was stunning. Crystal chandeliers reflected a soft light, tables elegantly decorated with sophisticated floral arrangements, and an orchestra played classical music in the background. It was a party for high society, with men in impeccable tuxedos and women in dazzling long dresses. Audrey and her friends, including Eve, looked beautiful in their evening gowns. Audrey wore a red dress that accentuated her silhouette, with sparkling jewellery adorning her neck and ears. Eve chose a simple yet elegant navy blue dress that perfectly matched her green eyes. As she mingled among the guests, Audrey couldn't contain a smile of satisfaction. She imagined Henry arriving, awkward and uncomfortable, feeling completely out of place in that sophisticated setting. In her mind, she was already planning the spiteful remarks she would make, exposing him to ridicule in front of everyone. The party chatter was interrupted when Henry entered the hall. To Audrey's surprise, he was impeccably dressed in a tuxedo that seemed to have been tailor-made. His hair was perfectly groomed, and he displayed a confident posture that immediately drew the attention of those present. Before Audrey could approach, Henry began circulating around the room, warmly greeted by various guests. Tight hugs, enthusiastic handshakes, and lively conversations followed him wherever he went. Audrey watched the scene, open-mouthed and confused. How did that simple waiter know so many influential people? Audrey's shock reached its peak when she saw her own father, an austere and respected man in business, greet Henry with genuine enthusiasm. The two talked for a few minutes, laughing and exchanging comments like old friends. Audrey felt her face burn with shame and anger. Her plan was falling apart before her eyes. To make matters worse, instead of addressing her, Henry went straight to meet Eve. The two smiled at each other, starting an animated conversation. Unable to handle the confusion any longer, Audrey approached her father, who had just said goodbye to Henry. "Dad, who was that young man you were talking to?" she asked, trying to keep her composure. Audrey's father looked at her in surprise. "That is Henry. He is the son of the owner of this restaurant. Now he is the one managing this and the other 4 family restaurants. He's a very dedicated young man and studied hard to take over the business. You always come to this restaurant, never met him here?" Audrey felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. All the times she had treated Henry with disdain, all the mean words she had said about him, it all weighed heavily on her conscience now. She looked around the hall, seeing Henry and Eve talking animatedly, laughing, and clearly enjoying each other's company. The night Audrey had planned to humiliate Henry had turned into her own nightmare. As she watched Eve and Henry dancing gracefully in the centre of the room, Audrey realised how mistaken her hasty judgment and arrogance had been. Henry, meanwhile, seemed completely at ease in the environment. He spoke fluently about business, art and culture, impressing everyone with his knowledge and charisma. Eve, by his side, glowed with happiness, finally having the chance to get to know better the man she was interested in. As the night went on, Audrey found herself increasingly isolated. Her friends, recognizing Henry's true nature, began treating him with genuine respect, leaving Audrey aside. She tried to join in some conversations, but the awkwardness was palpable. In a moment of quiet, Audrey secluded herself in a corner of the hall, watching the party from a distance. It was then that Henry approached her, with a gentle smile on his face. "Thank you for the invitation, Audrey," he said, surprising her with his cordiality. "I hope you are enjoying the party as much as I am." Audrey, unable to look at him, murmured an almost inaudible, "Yes, thank you." Henry continued, "You know, I've always admired the way you and your friends would come to the restaurant. You all seemed so close and happy. I hope we can continue having this friendly relationship now that we know each other better." With those words, Henry walked away, leaving Audrey even more confused and embarrassed. She realized that, even knowing her malicious intentions, Henry had chosen to act with kindness and maturity. The rest of the night passed in a blur for Audrey. She watched from a distance as the guests interacted, noticing how Henry and Eve seemed to fit perfectly in that environment she had always considered exclusively hers. When the party finally came to an end, Audrey found herself alone while everyone said warm goodbyes to Henry and Eve. Her father, approaching to leave, commented, "What an extraordinary young man Henry is, isn't he? And it's so nice to see Eve having such a good time. She really deserves it considering all the hard work she does at the company." Audrey just nodded, unable to find words. As she left the hall, she cast one last glance at Henry and Eve, who were chatting animatedly with a group of guests. In that moment, Audrey understood that her attempt to humiliate someone had only revealed her own flaws and insecurities. The next day, upon arriving at the office, Audrey found Eve organising some documents on her desk. For a moment she hesitated, but then she approached. "Eve," she called softly. I wanted to apologise for my behaviour, not just yesterday, but for all the time we've worked together. You deserve much more recognition than you've been given." Eve looked at Audrey, surprised by the change in attitude. "Thank you, Audrey. That means a lot to me." Audrey continued, "I would like to learn more about the work we do here. Could you teach me?" A genuine smile lit up Eve's face. "Of course, I'd be happy to help." At that moment, Audrey realised she had much to learn, not just about the job, but about how to treat people with respect and humility. The lesson she had tried to give Henry ended up being a lesson for herself, one that would change her life forever. As the days went by, Audrey made an effort to change her attitude at work and in her personal life. She began to pay more attention to the people around her, valuing their contributions and learning from their experiences. Her relationship with Eve blossomed into a true friendship based on mutual respect and collaboration. As for Henry, he continued managing the restaurant with the same charisma and dedication as always. Audrey, Eve, and the other employees continued to visit the place for lunch, but now the interactions were marked by genuine cordiality and respect. The transformative experience of that gala night served as a turning point in Audrey's life. She learned that appearances can be deceiving, that the value of a person is not in their social status or position, but in their character and actions. The young woman who once judged others arrogantly was now striving to be more understanding and empathetic. Over time, Audrey became a more efficient and respected leader in the company. Her new attitude not only improved the work environment, but also positively impacted the business results. She discovered that by valuing and encouraging the talent of those around her, everyone grew together. The lesson Audrey learned that night echoed throughout her life, constantly reminding her that true greatness lies in how we treat others, regardless of who they are or where they come from. And so, an attempt at humiliation turned into a journey of personal growth and redemption. If you enjoyed, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment with a number from 1 to 5 to let us know how much you liked the story. Also, watch the video that is currently on your screen. See you soon.